Where are we? Who are we with?
We're with Timberwolf.
Yeah.
Timberwolf Design. And yeah, I'm Heath Polkinghorne, so founder. And yeah, Timberwolf Design's now 5 guys. In Henley Beach, South Australia.
Yeah, which we are.
And repeat offender of We Are Makers.
Yeah.
That's
You
right.
were edition 2.
Yes,
edition
early
2.
on. Yep.
And it's come quite a long way since then. Since we were speaking yesterday.
Yeah,
You were not long in this space when we spoke before.
No, I reckon might have only been, so it's 3 years ago, so probably 2 years in this space. Yeah, and yeah, just probably in the absolute thick of one of the hardest periods of the business. Was around that article, I think. Like, good things were happening, but it was wild. I just remember that period. So it's like, yeah, it's good. I said this yesterday. It's a good period now that catching up these years later, and things have mellowed out a little bit, and probably only very recently. But yeah, big change in 3 years. Lots happened. But yeah, in a good way, it's all been.
So what did it look like 3 years ago? It's very easy to look at like really slick, nice furniture in a nice white space.
Yeah.
And think, this is dialed. These guys know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I made it look like that. I was pretty good at. I from the very beginning, knew that presentation of our pieces was huge. No matter where we were, whether it was like starting in my workshop at home or when we came here. One of the first things I did was turn a crappy office, which was sort of halfway in this room. Just painted the whole thing white, had the whole family in here. Little girl was just a baby on the ground. We got a photo of it, like mum and dad were painting and stuff like that. And that was, we were taking our photos and making the furniture look as good as we could. But the whole building was an absolute dive. We were just trying to do everything at once, like bring our gear in and expand that and do up the building at the same time. And yeah, it's like a 50s building, so that's like 70 years old now. All that wiring, pulling it out, replacing it slowly, and doing all that at once. So that 3 years ago, it was like, just working amongst an old building while trying to make it what it is now, sort of thing. So
fun.
Yeah.
And prior to that, where were you?
So started the business full time at the workshop that I built at home. So a house we've sold now, but we got married in our backyard.
Nice.
And so we did up the whole big backyard with a bungalow in it, and decided to get married in our backyard to save the money, put it into our own home. That was a very good excuse to knock down the garden shed that I had started the business in. Well, I was part-time playing around with it in this little garden shed. So to have the wedding in the backyard, it was a nice excuse to build a brand new workshop. So we got married, went to Europe for our honeymoon for 9 weeks, and quit my job before we left and started Timberwolf full time. I think it was 2017, pretty much on the dot. Came back after New Year's, started the business. Unemployed, but by myself. Employed by myself, started the business in the back shed there. So 2 years there, outgrew that, and then, came into here, so.
Did you know you always wanted to do that?
From when I started?
You obviously worked before. We talked a little bit about it yesterday, and you can maybe go into that. You know, you grew up on farms, contracting, all that, but concreting as well, and some mine work. But at what point was it like, I'm going to be a furniture maker?
At what point I was, so after having the earth moving business, construction manager, and I spent 3.5 years at a mining company. I mentioned I'd just started tinkering with timber because I was in debt from the previous business.
Right.
No money, a job that wasn't paying a lot, might have in the future, but at that time it wasn't. And started tinkering with, started to sell stuff that I'd built just around the house, like bottle crates that I'd made for myself, selling that on Gumtree. So it was kind of like the first little niggle of people actually wanting to buy some things that I'd made, and saw something in that. So, and I mentioned at the same time kind of falling in love with making stuff. And I was progressively making a bit better stuff each time. Like, it got a little bit addictive, and it still is. But I still remember wanting to get into furniture. It was when I built my first dining table. and it was the first time I used real hardwood.
Right.
Because I started in the pallet wood craze when that was a thing. Huge. And I was crazy. I was like, any pallet on site was mine. I'd be chucking it in the ute. And I used to pull out timber out of demolition sites. So in Australia, like most of the timber in old roofs is Oregon, so Douglas fir.
Right.
Which is basically America's pine. But being in a roof, it's been dried out for 50 years, so it was pretty good to use.
Yeah.
But it was a softwood. It was still like pine. But yeah, I'd go nuts and like I'd pull an entire roof apart and I got it down to about 2 hours. But
the whole roof
by
out?
myself. Yeah.
Good
Sometimes
going.
I'd rope in a mate and he'd like take some of the timber and I'd take whatever. But I could do a roof myself in about 2 hours, chuck it in the trailer and I'd start denailing it, cutting it up into nice lengths and then making stuff with that. And then friends of mine said, look, they were builders, and they said, can you make this dining table? Like, just show me a photo. And I was like, that's really difficult, but I'll give it a crack. Give it a crack. It was quite complicated, and this is like in my spare time, like while a full-time job sort of thing. And they were like, oh, we want an American walnut, and I didn't even know what American walnut was. I had no idea. Even ordering it, I was like, I don't know if I'm ordering the right stuff. And walnut.
One wood, please.
Yeah, one wood. They're like American black walnut, Queensland walnut. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And like this is walnut, but when you get walnut, I mean, if you're going to machine it, it comes like brown fence posts.
Yeah, right.
And I luckily got it machined because I didn't have any machines. So they gave it to me dressed. But it's like raw is like grey purple kind of colour.
Okay.
So when it rocked up, I was like, I don't know if I've got the right stuff. And I just sort of went along building the table and and this is when I still had the little tiny garden shed and like it had like a 2-pack section and whatever. And I've got the table together and it's still like grey and purple and whatever. And I coated it in our hallway in our house because the garden shed was leaking water. I had to get it out of there. So we got this 2.7 metre dining table in our hallway, little bungalow. But I still remember coating it to this day, like putting I think I put a wipe-on poly on it and it just went like this magical golden brown. And I was like, this is sick.
Nice.
This is it. I was like, that was pretty much like that little moment. I was like, wow, this has like turned out really good. I'm super happy with it. The process was amazing. Even though it was hard, but it was challenging.
Yeah.
And, it just like ticked all those boxes that I like doing, like, creating, designing, problem solving, having something to show for it. That
What's
was
the
it,
Japanese term for that? Ikigai. Find something you love, find something that sort of like ticks all the boxes for you.
It is, yeah. Yeah, and that was furniture, like weirdly. Even the photography side of it, taking my own photos, like it was just another creative...
The presentation is so important, hey?
Yeah, it's important, but it was nice for me, I know some people find that arduous and the social media stuff, but I found that another little creative outlet.
Cool.
The photos, I fell in love with photography like while making furniture because I was taking photos of my own pieces. I knew if I took a bit better photo, it would instantly get a better reaction. And it was kind of obvious, but when you're doing it, you're like, oh, whatever. So at the same time, I was trying to improve my woodworking skills. I was trying to improve my photography skills. Like when you got photography as a hobby, it's hard because you don't have much to shoot. You just take your photo on holidays or a lot of people get into like weddings or newborn photos or something like that. So always having a subject to photograph was really handy. It meant like this new hobby that I had, new outlet, another hobby. But I always had something to shoot and always wanted to improve and research that. And
nice.
Sometimes like even in here, like say like a prototype or a new build can be like, it's not all rosy. Sometimes it can go horribly wrong. So sometimes the best part of the entire process is photographing it at the end. So that was another little falling in love with moment sort of thing that ticked another box of a creative outlet, really.
That's ace. Before we go on as well, you talked about the prototypes. So even if a prototype's not going wrong, there's kind of not going right, sorry, there's two tracks, isn't there? There's like kill your babies and just bin it, get rid of it, move on to the next thing. Sounds like from what you're describing there, you just see it through to the end and photo it regardless.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah.
Never ever give up on it. Yeah, and like no matter be honest, like some projects made me honestly cry before. I've had like an anxiety attack over some things, like probably early on. And most of the prototypes until recently have been orders. It's been like someone trusting me with a sketch or a 3D render. So often it's like me seeing it through because it's an actual order. There's only been in the last year or two where I've occasionally made something that's an idea, and I'll make it and then sell it. Every other time previous to the last year has been an order. So there's no choice in seeing it through. And it's just that funny furniture making thing. People think it's all zen and whatever, but sometimes it's just, Timbers does all sorts of stuff. Until you like nut out and you sort of tame the beast and like work out everything that it does. It's like, and a lot of guys starting out find it hard because it does all sorts of stuff. It moves, chips out, it does all sorts of stuff. So I think any sort of making career is the same though, isn't it? That it looks from the outside very zen and he's getting to do his own thing and you know. I mean, a lot of what we were doing, we were just talking about it earlier, how difficult a position the business is at the moment, but like people see it as you get to navigate your own way through the world and do your own thing.
That is a definite plus.
That is the plus. But the vast amount of work you have to put in to be able to do that is nuts.
And why, like, you guys are obviously doing it and traveling, like, it's helping the direction of your business. Like, that's a nice thing that you guys are traveling, but I know you're doing it to help your own business and push it. Like,
absolutely.
You do get that in a lot of businesses, like, and you've got a great product at the end. Not many people know the hard work that it takes to get there, or just the hard work and sheer hours that go into it.
Is that something you find difficult with customers, or maybe the better question is, how do you communicate that with customers when they're coming in to spec a piece?
I think that's been good to have the workshop right behind the showroom, showroom, we only had this for the last 12 months. Before that, it was people like, if they were meeting us, they would walk into the showroom. They would walk into the workshop because that's all we had. So they would instantly see us making it. I do tend to tell people like the story of the building pretty quickly if they're willing to listen and learn, because another thing of the hard work is that they think it's just here and just the machinery just all landed in the right spot. And the evolution of the building that it used to, we've had several tenants or whatever in here and just the evolution, the hard work behind the actual building itself, let alone the designs and the physically making the furniture. Now we got the showroom, people coming in here, I do tend to at least get them to poke their heads out the back. And they're amazed every time, because this showroom could be anywhere in the city. And our workshop could be somewhere else or wherever. But knowing they can poke their head in and they open that door and they smell the timber and they see the guys working their asses off, like, try and fit those things in with the meeting as much as we can.
It's important to show that, I think.
And probably need to show it more on our socials and website and whatnot.
Showing it off on socials is the one.
I
think that's like the sexy part too, is like the workshop.
We think that's sexy.
And it is interesting because, like, I mean, even in Adelaide, or like you were saying, maybe the world, but like, it's not every day you get to see a furniture making factory sort of thing, And it's also not like your standard like, bulk amount manufacturing factory. It's a like artisanal factory sort of thing, craft, that high end sort of thing. So, we get a lot of our clients are, white collar workers that they're sitting at a desk or whatever. So for them to see the workshop, it's like, it's pretty cool. And it is funny with furniture making, like a lot of blokes particularly, it was like your little dream to make furniture or play with woodwork, a lot of guys did tech studies or something at school or whatever. And so them seeing it, I wanted to do this when I was a kid or whatever, and girls too, sort of thing. So for them to see it, they see that joy in their eyes.
That's quite interesting, isn't it? Because there's a bit of like an aspirational thing about that. If someone's always wanted to do it, he's like, well, I'm going to buy it from the guy that has done it.
Yes, yeah.
It's quite a good customer journey there, isn't there?
Yeah, particularly guys that have had a crack. Heaps of our clients are like, oh yeah, I'm trying to do this for a bit, or
Oh, really?
yeah,
That's cool.
Lots, yeah.
And then you know how hard it is.
Yeah, exactly. Or like, they may have just dabbled in it or something like that.
Yeah.
But at least like they are the ones that show a lot of appreciation for it and whatever. So.
Yeah. So having a space like this does come, of course, it goes without saying, it comes with its hardships. It's a lot of square footage that needs paid for. Do you think it's a necessity, and what do you think comes from having a bigger space that's customer facing? Because the majority of makers are just in how you were, shed in the back garden, right? Doing their thing through social. But having street frontage next to cafes, close to the airport, how beneficial, or in what ways has that been beneficial to your business?
I think, hugely to get to this stage.
Right.
I think if you're happy to either work by yourself or with one or two guys, I think that's totally fine to have your own workshop wherever you want. I think growing to this stage is nearly a must to reach, not just to reach that many people, but for those people that are interested, when they, it's going to be that turnover of like booking stuff in quicker when they can see finished pieces in a nice space, imagining their own home. And like, it's more about this size of the businesses. I mean, there's 5 of us, and to be booked out, 3 months ahead, there needs to be at least 50 jobs on the board.
Yeah.
So 50 pieces of furniture need to be booked in, deposits paid for. So every week I'm looking for another, 5, 6 jobs, sort of thing. So you need to be reaching
50 pieces monthly needs to be on the board.
Yeah, so that's all up on that board out there. That's chronologically week to week our schedule, and like even that 12-week period. Like I like that period. It gives you just a buffer either way to get a bit booked out further, or like if it goes quiet. Any further down to like 8 weeks, it's a bit worrying because you can finish, 10 projects in 2 or 3 weeks and not have any come in. So keeping that up and keeping like that amount of people interested and that amount of orders coming in, I do think, this is hugely beneficial. And letting people know that we are here and it's easy to get to, easy to see. And easier and just nice to come to as well. So, yeah.
It's really interesting. It's one of the reasons we wanted to fly up to Adelaide specifically to see you. It's one of those, it's in a really nice size at the moment, isn't it? Because you're not you're not aircall. Like we've been in the aircall factory, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, they are still doing things very well, but that's a lot of people. Yeah. But you're not the one-man maker in the shed.
Yeah.
It kind of gives a little bit of hope for the one-man maker in the shed if they want to scale it up to this size.
Yeah.
What were the key things you had to do to get it to this size, though?
That's a good
Because
question.
that must have been a massive undertaking.
Yeah, and big question.
Yeah.
Because it was like, I think I touched on it. Like, hard to know probably the key things because I really hit the business with every angle. Anything I could think of, and that's probably like the tough thing about business owner wanting to grow. Is you're just trying to think of everything. I know for a fact, like, how I went from, working in my shed, because I started off doing custom work. And you start off custom work because you don't have designs and you need work, so you take on anything and you have a crack at anything. And you might not even know what you want to build yet, so you're kind of willing to have a crack. If you've got a vision right from the start, awesome. But sometimes you don't. You're just like, I like woodworking. It could be anything. It could be a bit of joinery, or it could be smaller pieces. Or so I started to I guess when some people would want a dining table, they might even show me a photo or a sketch or something, and I'll design something similar. I won't just replicate that.
Yeah.
So getting a few of my own designs started to give that little hope of like, oh, maybe I could have my own range. And then even on the range factor for other woodworkers, and talking with other mates that was in woodworking as well. There's a funny thing of going into a range of like, are you just going to be like manufacturing that 1 or 2 pieces? Is it going to get boring? Are you going to do that? Is it going to become repetitive or whatever? So probably two things. Like I was keen to do a range because I felt like it was easier to advertise or like, to show off those pieces that you've designed in different timbers, different sizes and whatnot. And then the other thing was like, well, to make it not boring and repetitive, we just need enough designs. We just need more designs. So we're up to 50 now. Like we've got 50 designs to choose from. So no week is the same here. Like you know, and you're always learning a new one. You know, slowly from starting the small pieces to getting more complicated pieces, and through making our own range and being able to repeat stuff, that's how we could scale the business.
Yeah.
So right now, there's 4 guys on, and it's only probably recently with the systems that I've sort of put in place with our sort of plans and jigs for jobs and learning how to do that, learning what we need so that I can teach the next person and then that person can teach the next person. We're in a funny little spot where you talk about the future, I think we've not nailed it, but we've got enough systems in place that it could be a bit indefinite,
Okay.
how big we could scale it, and that comes down to having the range, but the systems of how to build those pieces.
Yeah.
And that also is fully supported by the crew we've got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've got good guys, we all get along, we all got attention to detail, we all take each other's advice, that kind of thing. And the guys want to improve as well. So they want to build whatever prototype I've done, and then I'll teach them that. And then I'm teaching them to teach,
Yeah.
you know.
That's a good
So,
process.
and then to also add to these systems. So the books we've got of each piece, adding those all efficiencies and whatever. So, where were we?
battling
getting from
through
that, getting from small to where it is now, I guess. Yeah. So that was the main things. I think we went from custom to a range, and making those processes scalable. That were probably the main things, I think,
Yeah.
and all the hard work in between.
Yeah.
Crazy hard work.
Yeah, don't take away from the fact that there's wild hard work that goes on in between
Yeah,
building.
yeah.
Because those
And
systems are never right first time
No.
and they need to be tested. And
No, it's just the sheer determination, really, of
Yeah.
of making it happen. Yeah.
So what about building the team though? You've got 4 guys now, so 5 including yourself.
Yep.
What does that look like for someone your size at the time? Did you know you wanted a team from the start?
Probably not from the start. I think my first year, I was happy just to survive the year. Which is probably similar aim to most people when they're really, really starting out. You just I just want to give it a crack. And I'm happy if I get to the end of the year. And you know what, even if I have to wrap it up, I just want to survive a year.
Yep.
And I just wanted a break from my previous job. And I was so pumped working from home by myself. My only ones there were my 2 dogs.
Nice.
And I was working in a shed that I built, in the garden that I built. It was a really nice year. I guess from there, it was the second year I thought, it's a tough lifestyle because it's only you.
Yeah.
I was happy with the solitude for a year, and then you start to crave a bit of interaction, and you're going to grow more if you've got someone else around you. Furniture's hard and heavy.
Yep.
You do need people to help physically. So my second year also, I was longevity wise, I need to grow this. I didn't know how far, but I knew I needed to grow it a little bit to have longevity. And because I loved it, it was I've survived this year and I love it. It's awesome. And I love growing the business as well. Love the photography side of it. I want to keep this.
Right.
So the second year was that was when I was I gotta start growing it, scaling it. So how many? I don't know or whatever.
Yeah.
I was happy to have 1 or 2 guys on it. Yeah. At one point, and then probably that next stage actually was having those that 2 to 3 guy workers with your mark. That is a tough patch because I was still up until the last few months really going absolutely ham, building stuff myself.
Yep.
We were talking about yesterday, only last few months being able to work on the business during hours. I've always worked on the business.
Yeah,
It's just been
Yeah.
at bloody midnight. Outside of hours. So now to be able to bring that to work is awesome. Like that's that funny in between patch, and when you want to go to that next stage. So second year, I was like, longevity, need to grow it a little bit, and then getting into that, growing it a bit, you go, shit, I need to grow this a bit further to come back to normality. To find a bit of a normal life again.
Work-life balance.
Bit more balance, yeah. Because that in between patch is like nuts. That's the hardest patch to get past, I think.
We were having exactly this conversation this morning over coffee. It's like, and that's the point that most people fall off.
Yeah, it's true.
Because
it's the toughest.
You can't keep it at that
period.
size. You can't scale it past. Like, what do you do?
Yeah, and like what we had, you put on 2 guys. Like I mentioned, I was ready to put on a 3rd, and then 1 guy left.
Yeah.
I'm like, far out. We just wanted to get to that stage, and I've taken 10 steps backwards. So then you sort of rebuild. You find someone else. Another 6 months goes past training that person, and then I had another guy leave. So like you got this full year period of like trying to get to that next step, and then eventually, we found a good crew that we all gel.
Yeah, they were good lads. We obviously went out for lunch yesterday.
Was it difficult to find people who wanted to do this, or was it pretty easy?
It hasn't been, and I guess we've only, it's like each year there's only been sort of like 1 spot or whatever. And like the one time I have advertised, I mean, actually I thought there was going to be more people apply.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But I mean, you realise even if someone really wants to do it, they might be in a secure job.
Yeah,
Yes.
Luckily the unemployment rate here is pretty low. So people are in secure jobs. So even though this might be a cool place to work at, it's still a big change and risk for someone to just jump into. And you got to consider like lots of things when people come for a job here. It's like, I mean, I have found in the end, one of the biggest parts is us just gelling, because you're working right next to each other all day. Like, you have to be, and I do like run the business like a team.
Yeah.
It's not like, here's a table, go build that in the corner. We all play a part in just about every job.
Right, okay.
Like, just about every job. Like, one person will get, I'll allocate like, a table or a cadenza to one of the guys, and they'll do the most of the build, but like I might prep the timber. One of the other guys might do some shelves for that cabinet. They might be needing to start this other project because it's a bit bigger, and like one of the other guys might coat that one,
right?
Do all the finishing on it. So that's a huge efficiency in itself, like us being able to jump ship and on each project and being okay with that. Some people aren't.
So is everybody multi-skilled in your workshop? Everyone can do everything?
That's where I want to get everyone to. Yeah. Most of the guys are pretty good, and I specifically try and like kind of train the guys to do that.
Yeah.
There's definitely like, you can see the strengths in each person.
Yeah, of course.
So you play into that a bit, and I think they enjoy that when they know they've got a strength, and you give them a bit more of that sort of
strength. Yeah, it's about recognition, isn't it?
It is, yeah. But ultimately, you have a little bit of that here and there with each person, but the more we can get everyone's skills to do a bit of everything, it just simply, it gives us all a bit of freedom.
Yeah, it does.
So, if one of the guys is sick, like we just jump onto one of the other guys coats his piece, or, 2 of us have got kids, which like constantly sick, we'll have to go home to, look after them or something. So if someone has to shoot home or go on holidays or whatever, another person kind of cover their work. So, like Todd had a baby earlier this year, and like, halfway through a project, he's off to the hospital.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't just let that project sit there. We'll finish it for him, and he's okay with that, and then he'll help us, another guy out when that happens to them.
Yeah. So if you choose to scale this bigger, do you think you maintain that everyone can do everything attitude, or do you think you start to, Henry Ford at pockets of production line? Like what does it look like to you as a bigger scale thing, if that's even something you've considered?
Yeah, I think it's hard to say definitely.
Yeah.
But I do like this system. Yeah. And maybe it's hard to get to find the right people that are like that open and that, just willing to do a bit of everything. Hopefully there is, but it's working now. So I feel like that's the way I would grow it if we were to grow bigger. I know there's always the thing of, getting, like say someone just on finishing or someone just on this, just on machining. But it's a pretty old school way of thinking. And I think I think those people are just going to get sick of their jobs.
No, that's the thing. I'm with you 100%. Those people are going to get sick of their jobs or complacent in their jobs, which is another huge thing. But that all feels like you're chasing tiny efficiencies, which are usually required if you're going to make profit in low-cost pieces.
Yeah.
You don't do low-cost pieces.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they're expensive, I'm saying they're good value for money. They're higher-end pieces that allow you to have this sort of romance of it's this tight-knit workshop of dudes that are just cracking on and getting it done.
Yeah.
That seems like the way furniture making makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
Especially in like today's world where, what really separates this apart versus the IKEA or the Lidls. Everyone can, there's a place for that, right?
Yes, yeah.
Do you think there's a resurgence in this kind of furniture, this kind of product, this world of higher value stuff at the moment?
Absolutely, yeah. I think like probably the two things, I think that, IKEA phase, one, it did kill off a lot of furniture makers and whatever, but I think it's done its full circle and it's found its place. Yeah. We've still got some IKEA stuff at home, and I'm a furniture maker, but we're renting and we're going to build our forever house next year. So it has its place in a rental. I don't expect someone to buy a high-end piece for their rental when it's not their forever home. So that has its place. Starting the business at this sort of age and whatnot, where people are buying their forever homes or their first house, and they've been renting for 10 years and having hand-me-down furniture and just average stuff. They're definitely finding they want to spend that extra money on a forever piece. And then there is like a touch of like the environmental side of it.
Yeah.
Yes. Them buying one piece and that's going to be their forever piece instead of like stuff that's only going to last a few years.
That's a whole conversation in itself, isn't it? I think it's a conversation that's more prevalent now than ever. Like, buy well, buy once.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
It's really easy to see I go back to that TikTok ad, didn't I? There was a TikTok ad that I seen. I subscribed to a newsletter that just sends me like good ads that I've converted that week. It's just like this company that goes through everyone's ads and it's like, this one works, this one works.
Yeah.
And it was some dude who's like, this is the best mic on the planet and this is what you need for content. It was £1.26. It's like, how many of them do you need?
Yeah.
They probably last a week. How many of them do you need versus a normal road which will cost you like $90? Mm-hmm. Like that's the extreme version of it, but and then what's the damage that super cheap thing does?
Absolutely, yeah.
There's a lot more transparency in buying well, buying once. Boots are a good one.
Yeah, boots.
I remember the first pair of decent boots I bought, first pair of Red Wings was, I remember my dad at the time just being like blown away by the price of it.
Yeah.
But then he's
wearing
like,
them now.
but he totally sees why, because I've worn them every day for 8-9 years, however long it was. And the only reason I don't still wear them is they need resold and I can't find someone in the UK to resell them.
Yeah.
Which is another conversation about stuff not being able to be repaired.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah. So, to move on from that, the range at the minute, another furniture maker posed this question to us. If there's one piece, and he posed it to us that we could pose it to other furniture makers and other makers, if there was one piece that Timberwolf would be remembered for in 100 years, what would it be?
Design or piece of furniture?
Anything, open-ended question.
I would assume like we would say tables are our specialty. Mm-hmm. Remembered in 100 years, like I don't know if that design is there yet.
Right.
Or that one design.
Yeah.
Maybe there will be. The black table behind you, I thought was going to be the forever one.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
And I've only built 2, and I haven't really advertised that ever because it was so hard to make.
Yeah.
And it's very much only recently since we've had it in here. that a few people have been quite interested in it, and I've just kind of been like, look, I won't make one again unless someone puts the right price on it. But some people have genuinely thought about that crazy price, and I'm like, okay. I think when I made that table very early on, and I'm not sure if it had necessarily the brand or the reputation to warrant a really big price tag on it that it was actually worth, but you kind of got to have the brand to go with it. And I'm probably just starting to think, well, maybe the brand is there now.
Nice.
And we've been around like long enough, say 7 years, and like people have followed us on social media for the 7 years, and they've fallen in love with the brand enough that like, the price stops being an issue.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, maybe that is the one, but overall, I think, I hope like, Timberwolf tables are, in nice houses in 100 years' time, for sure. Yeah.
I think they will be.
They should be.
How important, you talk about brand there, how important is that brand saliency to you? And to any maker, really. You've been doing it for 7 years now. Your aesthetic's not really changed over that. Like once you found good hardwood tables, you've kept a consistent aesthetic. I'm sure there's been times where it's been very tempting to change it up or change logos or rebrands or... I got a message just this morning from someone who was interested in... Might tell you actually. Breaking news for Kate. Who was interested in refeaturing, who'd been featured in an early edition because they've rebranded, and we see it more often than not.
Okay,
But
how
important is that brand saliency, do you think?
Yeah, that was huge. And like the guys that did our logo, and not like that took me ages to find the right person. I didn't really necessarily know what I wanted, other than I knew it had to be simple and clean, which was much like our designs. They're all pretty simple and clean. And just to stand the test of time, because I knew, I even said to them, I remember the conversation of approaching him, like I was still early on, and I was like, I can see where I need to be, and I need a good website, a good brand, and a showroom. And there's no reason why Timberwolf can't be up there with anyone else in the world with those three things.
So true.
So those three things were the most important things for the business to get to. I was like over the moon with the how simple the design, logo and font is, and like the colour. I would never pick brown, but hilarious. It's like it matched perfectly. It was timber, leather. It's like. Natural kind of thing. That was like incredibly important, and I've always been very careful about it, like just the way I've presented it from the start, I guess.
Where did you learn all that from the start?
Well, I guess I did like design in year 12 at school, so like right back to school I was like, that was the only thing I really liked besides music and playing the drums and whatever. Design was my other like thing to go for. So I mean, even back at school, like designing stuff at school, like 10 years, however long, 13 years later or something like that, when I started to design furniture, like those programs, it was like muscle memory almost. So learning SketchUp was just like bang, bang, bang. That was easy. It's quite a bit of a funny story with the Instagram thing of like how did I learn that? Because like to me it was just trial and error. Whatever works, and you just don't get too upset if something flops or whatever. But I made a coffee table for a guy I used to play. He was in a different band and we played gigs together, and he's got a landscaping business. And I was like, man, your Instagram is sick. It looks awesome. It's like you're landscaping. You've got incredible photos. And he was like, yeah, like you do as well. Like, and I've had that comment a lot, especially early on. And we were talking about how funny it was being in bands and having to promote our music and gigs and shows. And we kind of had a light bulb moment together. We were like, oh my God, we've been doing this forever.
Yeah.
So to like plug our gigs, you just shamelessly got to promote yourself. Shamelessly. Like, we're playing here, we've got a new song out here. So that like funny little music background like really played into the Instagram thing. And again, like that was trial and error with the band. Like we didn't do that great, but you just have to have a crack at it. You want to get somewhere,
like
you have to
that.
have a crack at it. So we both realised at the same time, it was like, oh wow, that's where it's come from. Like, I'm sure of it, sort of thing. So yeah,
It's a good reinforcement of, you know, no matter what you do, there is still skills that are transferable.
Yes.
And skills can't really be taken away from you. Like,
Yeah, and use those things. I mean, as far as like learning it, like someone new, like the biggest thing is it's still trial and error.
Yeah.
So as much as like our stuff has looked like quite nice for a long time, I started with a shit camera, shit lens, and or like just taking photos off my phone. But it was just researching, and like part of the falling in love with the photography helped. But yeah, if you want to get good at it, research the hell out of it. Like,
That's what you're good at. You just research everything. Oh,
yeah.
If you want to become better at something, you just have to put the work on.
Or just don't see people as like, or businesses as like they just landed at that level. You know, they would have, like most of them would have started somewhere, whatever. Like, I look at my old photos and like it's insane, the difference. We've just able to, make it all look relatively seamless over the years. But probably like you wouldn't find many photos from the first 2 years of business anywhere online at the moment. Some of them were good enough to be, but that's the thing, you can't find them because we've grown and evolved and, turfed the old, and we've kind of got this new thing. But yeah, just keep trying, research. Research is one of the biggest things.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is you listen to that woman who's big on female personal branding, and her thing is just post it.
Yeah, just
post it.
Yeah.
And then my big thing to back onto that, and I'd say to any maker, is once you've just posted it, check back. And just take a note. Did that work? Yeah. Did that not work? No.
Yeah.
Okay, still a win, because you know what does or doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
It's not...
Don't just stop there and be like, oh, it doesn't work.
Yeah. Take it as a lesson, try again.
Yeah, just keep trying.
Yeah.
We talk to so many people that, and I get it, because it's constant.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, social media doesn't work for me, social media, and I get that. I totally understand why you'd feel that way, because it is a real uphill battle.
Yeah.
But it only takes one person to see it.
Yeah.
I think, was it you I was talking to earlier? The woman, there was a business breakdown on her business. She does, I think it was you were talking to earlier, dietitian. She teaches dietitians how to bill an invoice, which to me seems like, do the work, bill, right?
Yeah.
There must be something more complicated about it, I don't understand. But she had like 5,800 followers and was turning over $1 million.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Because she's just super niche and she just keeps doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And she looks for questions that are getting asked in the comments and then does a social media piece on them.
Yeah.
I think as makers, though, we can think we can do everything.
Yeah.
And so we must do everything. But then when you do everything, you do actually confuse people, as in, like, what do you actually do? I can't really, like you were saying, like your brand and your products, they match. Like, it's a thing. Whereas some people just try and do everything. And I've done it myself. Like, I think
we're all guilty of that. And probably any like business book I've ever listened to, a lot of them, like, try and teach that you need to hone in on the thing that you're best at. And that was another like thing for me to lead away from the custom to go to range, mostly tables, but just hone in on that and hone in on our style as well, sort of thing, like style and the brand and everything. Yeah.
The past couple of people spoke to is like custom seems to be like pushed to the side a little bit.
Yeah, people are stopping custom. Why do you think that is?
People don't want to pay the money that it's worth.
Right.
Fair.
Right.
It just takes it takes so much effort and work designing, and to do a completely custom piece and then all that hard work is just thrown out the window. And that's fine if someone wants to pay for it. If they want to pay
if
for
someone
all
pays
those
a design
hours,
tab.
So I mean, there was a guy, sadly passed away earlier this year, but he was like prolific in the furniture industry, Kai Lu. He did a lot of one-off pieces, but it'd be a $30,000 dining table.
Right.
And funnily enough, like me early on, God, 30 grand for a dining table, like, and this guy must be amazing. But he was honestly probably just charging what it was worth to have a one-off dining table. And that's what I'd probably do. Like the level of effort that goes into designing one design, that's not even getting paid that well. for 30 grand for one design.
Yep.
You look at the SketchUp table for this very table we're sitting at, and you like zoom out, and there's 100 tables, 100 different tweaks of this one design. And like the clients that were in here earlier today, like it's probably that funny little example, like, oh, could we do this edge on that table over there on this one? And I was like, I've probably explained it a few times, but I'm like, well, why are this edges on this table? Because that radius there is 40 mil, and then the radius under there with that highlight under there is 20 mil, and then the flutes are half that again. And I sort of worked out with all those little design things that's why this design sort of works.
Yeah.
And then the amount of time that took to get to that spot. Yeah, it's just, it's that time factor. If people are willing to pay for custom, go for it. But you got to know that it's not repetitive. That was probably the other thing, is like, how do you scale a business when you're doing everything custom?
It's true.
You got to be like, sit down with per job each time with all new plans, and you can't really, you're not going to have many pre-made jigs or anything like that. It's just hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, essentially.
Yeah.
And that just comes down to money. That's all it is, really.
I used to look at what I would charge people to design the stuff I used to design, and I think if I had to build that as well and what that, because everything was one-off custom stuff we were doing.
Yeah.
But they were for massive film clients.
Yeah.
Someone's not going to order that for their back garden.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like how do you find the custom for, unless there's someone listening to this that wants a dinosaur or wants a spaceship for the back garden, I'm your guy. But I don't think there will be. So you talk about scaling the business quite a lot. We've talked about it a number of times over this. Do you view yourself as much the maker still, the businessman scaling the business, or is that job one and the same now?
Sorry, go again. Like it's.
So, do you still view yourself as the maker?
Yeah, for sure.
But obviously the businessman as well, and scaling the business, because they're often, and the reason I want to talk about it is they're often not talked about together.
Yeah.
You're either the small shed maker, or you're running the business that's I don't know, dry cleaning.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not talked together often enough, I don't think.
Yeah.
Certainly in early years in education, they're not talked enough early.
No, that's true.
Where it's like, you can learn how to make this thing and scale this into this bigger thing that provides. You've got a family, 2 kids, dogs, a wife, and you've got 4 other guys who have also got families.
Yeah.
How does that all look to you? And certainly approach it from an angle of people listening to this that maybe are at that stage where they need to think about scaling it up if it's going to work.
Yeah, well, like, I mean, you spoke about education, like that's, and we talked about it yesterday with even like, if you're, go to, here it's TAFE or whatever, to go learn a skill or a trade or a craft or something like that, and they just don't teach you the finance side of it, the running the business side of it. So I guess young guys starting out, like, it's like you need to like probably just be proactive and try and learn that, learn that side of it as well, because no matter what, like that comes with the business. And particularly, I mean, early on, you're wearing all the hats as well anyway. Mm-hmm. So early on, they probably are spoken about because you're wearing all the hats, and then this business scales. So then does it separate your, I'm just running the business, am I making? For me, where I see it, like I'm still in between a lot of it, and where I'm at now is mostly making the prototypes and then teaching that to the guys. And I think it's very easy for businesses to scale, and like the person who started it ends up running the business and not doing what they were doing how they started it.
Yeah.
And then I've heard it so many times, and then they end up hating it.
Yeah, right.
Because they're not doing what they started out to do.
So I've always got that in the back of my mind to continue making, and that's why I like the prototypes.
Yeah.
Making that, it's taken the pressure off me not having like a deadline on a bunch of these.
Okay.
So I can take my time with it, which kind of gets a little zen back.
Nice.
Because when I started it, you got that zen woodworking in the first year, and then you grow it and that disappears into thin air because you're trying to make a living out of it. And then, to get that back. But I still want to absolutely I don't necessarily want to keep wearing all the hats, but be involved with absolutely every process. And, I mean, when it's your baby, you want to anyway. Like, Yeah.
And none of that is to take away from the fact that you had to do the 3.5 years hard graft to get there, right? None of that takes away. I mean, it's very nice to say, oh yeah, now I get to hang out and do a bit more prototyping and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone listening for that to take away from you had to do the graft to get there.
Oh yeah, you got to do the 120 hour weeks for 5 years straight to get there.
Yeah.
7 years in, I'm only just not working weekends.
Yeah.
You know, I've worked every weekend apart from going away or a wedding or something like that. Even a wedding, I would work that morning for sure. 7 years in, like work every weekend, like, and only just not now. So it's like, it's the hard yards for sure, like to get to this sort of part. But
and do you take stock of everything? Do you take stock that you are at this stage and you're like, I've done well? Like, because a lot of us don't. We just be like, right now, on to the next thing.
Do I sit back sort of thing?
Yeah.
I try to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not nice like this where you get moments and you get to reflect on it. I mean, a lot of the clients that come in here, unless it's like really rushed, but if someone wants to hear the story of it, that's even just, I mean, that happens every week nearly now, which is nice with people coming in and, because they're often like, it's good, like, you know, clients came in last week, they were just, you know, blown away by the story and had been following for quite a while as well, for a few years. And they knew I got young kids and whatever. So, you need to more than you do.
Yeah. Right.
You know, absolutely. I do get to a little bit, but it's hard when you can't turn off and you're always looking for that next thing sort of thing, or you just have to because you need to survive. You need to push it to that next thing to survive, essentially. So, more often would be nice.
Yeah, right, yeah. Put it in your calendar. What is that next thing for Timberwolf?
I think we're, like, funnily enough, at the moment, I think we've, in the last few months, have just reached that next thing I've been trying for the last 3 years.
Right.
So I'm pretty happy to, like, see how this goes with our, like, nice crew, wheel gel, and things like all those funny little, crazy, stupid little things I've thought of in the last 7 years and whatever. So much of it is actually taking place.
Good.
All the little systems, all the crazy ideas of like the machines we've got and how we can do this and like going against the grain of like traditional woodworking here or whatever. And I've just like these ideas and they're like starting to work. It's feeling good. So I'm happy to like sit here for a while. We might like, you know, maybe one more guy on could be helpful, but I'm nervous to say that. I think reaching this sweet spot as well, like I said before, I think we've got to such a nice spot that it could be scalable, like, you know, in whatever restriction, but indefinitely sort of thing. That might just be of where we are, or how much room we've got or whatever, but building the systems and sort of culture at the same time to be able to continue that. We can see where it goes. Like it could end up huge. I don't know if I want that. I think I've been longing for a bit more normality in hours and family life balance for so long. I'm scared to even like mention it. And that's the thing, like it's just been such hard work to get to this stage. This is the stage I've been looking for.
Good.
The next thing we could scale it, but I'm really happy to just sit here for a while. So, yeah.
You mentioned culture there. How do you build a culture as a woodworking firm?
I think that like probably hard. Like obviously finding the right clients. And look, simply to simplify that in my brain explosion I just had of that question is finding those guys. Like as much as look, when a few of the guys have come here to work, I am feeling out if they're going to fit in, essentially, because we've built the systems of how we make furniture good enough that they don't need to be an amazing maker. That definitely helps. Definitely helps. But they pretty much need the passion for what we do. That's a big thing. So like, I haven't really put it on anyone too young because I like I mentioned, like each one of these guys have done something else and then they've found furniture.
Yeah.
So that helps when they're like, they love what they do. So that's a big thing. And then like it's sort of nurturing them and nurturing us as a group. So even us going for lunch yesterday, like that's just like a nice thing to do together, because suddenly you're out of the workshop and the conversation can change to like, oh, we're almost like mates now, rather than work colleagues sort of thing. And it does change a bit, but like doing a little bit more of that, having the time to do it, that's all part of it. But yeah, like kind of, I'd say like nurturing a new age way of running a business and being kind, supportive.
All those good things.
All the good things, and just like getting rid of that like old school toxicity sort of thing.
Nice.
That we've all probably worked in at one point in time. Yeah,
quite.
There's no need for it.
Yeah.
No, there definitely
You're all on
isn't.
the same team, all trying to work towards the same thing.
Yeah.
Everyone just wants to get paid at the end of the month and make nice stuff, right? Do nice stuff that they want to go home and tell people about.
Yeah.
Where would Timberwolf be, and what would it be if you knew you couldn't fail?
If we couldn't fail. I mean, I guess I'd make it bigger and bigger. But it's hard to know what that looks like or what the stress that comes with that. I don't know. Like not failing, but are you happy?
Yeah, not failing, but you're a mess.
If you couldn't fail, I mean, the biggest restriction on business is finance. Like
That's a good one, like the restriction.
the restriction is just like if you just afford to buy all good machines and pay guys like top dollar, that's the thing. It'd be hard to fail but I don't know. Yeah. I guess you see how big it gets.
Yeah. I'm always interested though, because some people would make massive changes, but it sounds like you wouldn't. You would just kind of expand on what's already happening.
Absolutely.
Of course, everyone wants new table saws and new this and new that,
Yeah,
right?
correct.
Of course you want that, and that's where the finance comes into it, like you rightfully say. But it sounds like you're pretty happy with it all.
Yeah, recently.
Yeah, well, and again, had we been here 3 months ago, I know this is a very different podcast, right?
Yeah. A little bit, yeah. That's true, yeah. It would just be doing what we're doing. It's a very cool moment seeing or being amongst it even, for all 5 of us hooking in the workshop. And it's just pumping. But everyone's happy. Everyone's singing over the whatever song's playing with the machines going nuts, and it's cool.
Yeah.
And there's no reason being happy with where it is now to scale it, and scale it the right way with the right culture, that there's no reason there couldn't be 40 people out there having fun, building furniture, getting paid well, and just enjoying their job.
Let's try to show young people that this can be a thing as well.
This can be a career.
Yeah, because it's fun.
You ever thought about apprentices? Bringing young people on board?
I think that's what I've struggled with. Is I think when I was young, and a lot of people end up either travelling or trying other careers. So I think that's hard. The amount of effort it takes to train someone and get them to gel and fit in the business, and then just to see them, which I've had one guy just I want to go live in Byron for a year. That's going to probably happen at the end of their apprenticeship because they're 23.
Yeah.
You're going to go overseas and travel. So if you're a huge company and it weren't too phased about the cost of training guys.
Yeah.
But that's when you're small. That's huge. Training someone and
you just end up in this perpetual loop of training, don't you?
Yes, yeah.
You get one guy through the ranks.
Yeah.
He goes and does his thing.
Yeah.
Another girl comes in. Another guy comes in. Another girl comes in. Whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Costly.
And the longer you can keep guys, the better. Just because it's so hard when they leave. Yeah. So as far as saying before, all the guys have done something else and then found furniture.
And they're not looking for the next thing.
Exactly that. Exactly that. Like,
that's true.
And like all I can hope for with like most of them is that they're happy enough here to not start their own business.
Yeah, right.
You know, and sometimes that just comes down to paying them well enough.
I don't think anyone, especially in the making space, I would be careful when I say this, but I don't think anyone actually wants their own business. The business is the necessity of all the things you want to do. Like if someone was going to pay you the same and it had your name on the door, and it had your showroom, and you could still do exactly what you're doing now, I'm pretty sure you probably wouldn't have all the admin hack that goes with the business. It's the fact that to have all those things, I know for us, like, I don't necessarily want the business of We Are Makers. I want to be able to make the difference that it makes. I want to be able to make our decisions wholly for what we do, and grow that as a thing in the direction we want it. I don't particularly enjoy doing my tax return at the end of the year and all the admin that comes with a business, right?
It's
Absolutely, just that's a necessity.
Yeah, I mean, like going back to my first year, it was just to survive a year to work on my own because I hated where I was.
There you go, right?
So if I can get the guys to love where they are, or let's say I loved where I was that year, I wouldn't have taken such a huge risk to start my own business. I wouldn't have, like, what's the point? If I had stability and I loved going to work, why would I look for anything else?
That's true.
So I would love to be able to like provide that for the guys here, and the business is going to benefit from that because we're not training new guys every 6 months. We've got the same guys, and those guys are going to train the next guys. You know, that's
a good way to look at it.
Yeah. So like that's always been my aim.
It's a good purpose to have. Kate,
what advice would you give your younger self?
I've heard this question a few times, and well, I'll give you the long answer or the short.
Let's go long.
Long answer. All right. I listened to one of your podcasts, and it was the leather guy. Starts with a B.
Ben Geisler, saddle maker.
Makes leather bags. British
Makes
guy.
leather bags.
Bjorma leather.
Yeah. Alex at Bjorma. Alex Simpson, that was
that's it.
Episode 76, 78.
Yeah. And like he had his answer, and I just like it, like I was listening to it and I was like, wow, that's probably what I would have said. It was like slow down and take stock, but like slow down. And I heard his follow-up to that was like, but if I slowed down, would I be here, sort of thing.
His was a good podcast then.
It was a good point, but like, why are you for me, I just go deeper and like, why am I hitting it so hard? And it's like, well, I've had one failed business, and I said yesterday, this has been a bit of an anxiety run business. Because I've found what I love and I don't want it to fail. So as far as me slowing down, that's probably just been like recently trying to deal with those past things as to why this is driving me so hard. So going a bit deeper there. But also the other thing is like what I never learnt, what you need to learn in business, what we're talking about in education is like getting better with the finance side and money. Just feel like I wasn't really taught any of that when at boarding school.
I don't think any of us were,
like maybe it was our age group and they just don't teach it at school.
Well, they're not expecting you to go and work for yourself, are they? They're expecting you to go work for someone, so...
Yeah, but advice for like little Heath out in the workforce would be like, no matter, I was like, you don't know where you're going to end up, but like just get better with like finance, because that's going to help you later on in life. Don't be scared of therapy to deal with with anything you've been through, to have more of a natural crack at something rather than it just be like this full steam ahead, because I don't want it to fall in a heap. And work through burnout a dozen times when I may not have had to.
It always compounds though, doesn't it?
Does.
Until the day that you just fucking melt down.
Yeah. So, yes, the business might not be exactly in the spot if I'd slowed down, but there'd be other things that'd be in a better spot, or made me not so stressed or something. So, yeah.
You happy now though?
Definitely getting there. As you guys
check
find,
back in a month's time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. No, I'm very happy with where it's going.
Good.
And like I said, just very recently, but
just don't let where it's going always be just out of reach.
Yeah.
You know, because you've done all the work to get it to here, and I'm terrible for this. Like where it's going is always just out of reach.
Yeah.
Like just let it be there. Even if it's 24 hours, let it be there before. Don't keep chasing something that you've already surpassed.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and that's why I'm happy to like let it sit for a bit and like, I'm getting home to do bedtime for my kids, and I'm getting home to when they're sick and I've got to pop home for a few hours. Like, you know, it's getting to a good stage where I've wanted that for so long, and that's where it is now. So very happy I can do those things, and I hope I get a bit more freedom. And like whether we got to grow a little bit more to get a bit more freedom, but I mean that's why you start your own business, is you think you're going to have freedom,
and you can, but it's years away.
It is. You kind of like, I always said sort of like, you've got a job, you got stability, but you don't have freedom. You start your own business, you might not have stability, but you got freedom. Yeah. Then you start your own business, you realise you don't have either.
I like
so
that one.
True.
Yeah, like that one. Until you work long enough and you get it dialed like after a while, and you can hopefully eventually get that freedom back.
Brilliant.
Amazing. That was
Wrap it up on that note. Thank you very much, mate. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Cheers, buddy.
You guys as well.